this is Monique, and I have one more project I want to share with you. So I got this new purse, and it was really cute, but it had too many pockets. Now, don't get me wrong, I like pockets. I like to be organized, but this one had two big zipper pockets, and then the two big zipper pockets snapped together to make another pocket, so I kept opening both zippers before I could find my wallet. I don't like it when I have to search for my wallet. That kind of gives me a start. So, what could be done? It had to be altered. I wanted to keep the outside pockets on both sides and one of the zipper pockets, the little zipper pocket on the inside, but the extra zipper pocket, the snap pocket between them, and the pockets that are just big pockets that always just get everything crammed on them, all of those had to go. Plus it had the little bit of chain. I thought I'd like the chain. I didn't like the chain, it always seemed tangled. So, opened up one of those links and took that off. No more chain on either one of those D-rings. And then, look, the snap pocket in between the pockets is not a pocket anymore. Here's what I'm going to keep. The outsides and the two rings to use to put the strap on. Measure how far down that is so I'll know. This is the inner pocket that snapped together and the lining, and I'm going to use those to make the new piece so I can make the size just a little bigger. This piece will become the sides of the purse so that they're just a little bit bigger instead of just being quite so flat, and this will be the bottom. So it'll be a little bit bigger than it was before, but only a little. And then the same thing with the lining so that the whole thing can be lined. Now time to put it together. This is the new expansion part, the bottom and up the sides that's going to be bigger. The original pockets, the two zipper pockets, one of them was a little bit taller than the other, so I have to cut just a little bit off of that was the back outside to make it the same length as the front outside. Now I'm going to put the lining together. It's got to have a lining because otherwise everything would just fall through and it'd be a mess. So pin that around, but I started at the top corner because I don't have any room to adjust that. It has some interfacing across the top and I want that to line up exactly where it was. So I'm going to make sure that those top edges are sewn down in place. Instead of sewing all the way around the whole thing, I sewed each of those top edges and then went back to sew all the way around that bottom edge so that it's got a good nice half-inch seam allowance around there so it'll be sturdy. And that's the beginning of the new shape. Now the same thing for the outside of the purse. So across there and so across the other side. Now once I got those sewn, I sort of tried to tape them open. I noticed that the other seams had been taped open. I don't know that that really helped much, but I taped them anyway so that my seam allowances stayed open. Then started sewing it in place. Same thing here. Started at the top edge because this vinyl-y, leathery, whatever this stuff is, had a hard fold right there at the top and I wanted that to match up. Good job on that one. Then gonna sew it all the way around. But I had a treat. When I got done sewing down each side and tried to sew across the bottom, it didn't fit. It was too long. I don't know how I got it different than the lining. They were cut the same. The lining fit. This didn't. See right there? That's just terrible. So I got out my seam ripper and worked there for a minute. I took out one of those seams that was sort of on the corner of the bottom and took out the extra all the way across the bottom, all of that seam across the bottom so that I could have a little bit less to go across there and make it fit to the curve of the purse. I also took out the first seam because I wanted to open up the seam allowance. Remember my tape idea? I'm going to use it again, but I don't know how helpful it was. I did it anyway. And by the way, the tape is still inside the purse. It's just masking tape. It won't be a big deal. Take out a little more so that I could stretch that, not stretch it, but just pull it a little and get that straight across that side of the bottom. And finally, made it around that stitch. Now, there is what the purse is going to look like from the front side anyway. Cute, cute, cute. Okay, moving on. Now we're going to put the back on there. And on this time I'm going to start with the purse instead of the lining because I need to do the lining last. The lining is going to have a hole left in it so that I can turn it. Started at the top corner so that I can make sure where it folds matches. Sew down one side, sew down the other, and then sew across the bottom. See the tape there? It held it open, but it pulled on the lining part some and didn't make it all lay perfectly flat. It worked out okay though. work my way all the way around the bottom of the outside of the purse. Sometimes the words are hard. Is it the inside? Is it the outside? It's the right side? It's the wrong side? We got to work on the vocabulary. Sew with right sides together. That meant the two flowered sides went together. That's important. Turn it and let's see how that looks. There it is. That's the final shape and size. Still needs a little more work, but it'll be good. So I put the super glue on those top edges of the seam to make them stay open, because remember my tape didn't really work great. Oh wait, I gotta twist that. Now the super glue will come out. It was still sealed from being in the package. So there are 8 places that I want to glue that seam allowance down open, because there's 2 seams on each side and 2 sides of each seam. So 8 places I want to glue that down. Switch around, do the other. I did clip out a little bit of the extra just to reduce the bulk a tiny bit, but would you look at this? Do you see that? That is the D-ring to hold the strap on. It has to be sewn into the side seams. So guess what? Let me finish going this. Now it's time to get the seam ripper out again. Sometimes it seems like you go backwards as much as you go forward. Marked how low it needed to be and took out enough seam on each side to fit that little leather piece into the seams that I had already made, but I guess I thought it'd be more fun to make it in. Like I said, I altered a purse. This is the first time I've ever altered a purse like that. I didn't know what I was doing. I was making it up as I was going. Get the seam out. Put the piece in. Now, when I sewed these pieces in, I didn't just sew across them once. I went back and forth a few times to help make sure they were strong, because all the weight of the purse is going to be split among these 4 places where that seam is sewn in. So instead of just sewing once, I sewed 3 times. Forward, backwards, forward. Maybe 4. Forward, backward, forward, backward. I don't know. Anyway, so now I got to work it in the other side. That was one side of one side. 1/4 of the work to fix the thing that I skipped. And then it's the other side. Now the little piece is a little bit shorter than what I added to extend the sides, but it just makes it bunch up a little. It was only 1/4 of an inch shorter or something. Nothing significant. But there. Now it's going to be better, because it's going to work better as a cross body bag if I actually have a place to put the straps. Ta-da! Okay, moving along. Now to put the zipper pull back on, to get it to line up so that the teeth start at the same place so that the other end is also lined up, is the trick. I don't exactly understand how a zipper works. I mean, I see what it does, but I don't understand how that little piece of metal makes them mesh together so beautifully, and there's no other way to do it. You can't squish them together. You can only do it like that with a zipper pull. Anyway, a little zigzag across the end to hold that in place. And then I'm going to work some more to finish sewing the lining so that it all is closed up. I don't know what I'm doing there. It's hard to see when it goes this fast. No, I do know. I'm kidding. Starting at the top like I did on the other parts so that it makes sure it lines up at the top, and then doing the sides around the corner a little bit, but leaving the bottom open because I've got to be able to turn it back to the right side. And so here we go. Pull it all through that hole. It's not a tiny hole, but it's kind of small to force all that leathery kind of stuff through. So it takes a second to cram all that through. But once it's through, it's beautiful. I think it is. Anyway, now to close up that hole, because that would be terrible to have this hole. Then the things would be in between the lining and the outside of the purse. Anyway, sew across there. Easy, because it's just going to be stuffed down in the bottom of my purse. If it was something that was going to show, I might have done it different, but it's stuffed down in the bottom of my purse. Alright, the last part before I put the strap back on is to sew the lining to the outside on each side. This is at the new part that I added. So I took off that box so that I could slide it up on there. A lot of times when you're doing things like that, you might flip it up and sew from the other side. But to do that, I would have had to turn it all inside out again. It was just easier to do it this way. Oh, but did you see that? Remember showing you how to put the zipper on? How I did such a nice job. It went so fast. I took it off. It was kind of in the way to do this part. So I took the zipper pull off and finished up sewing the top edge there that was underneath it. I couldn't get it out of the way otherwise. Now it's time to put the zipper pull back on there. And guess what? Of course it's harder to get back on there this time. It was just hard to get the two ends to start to want to slide up on there. And I had to be careful because I wanted to make sure that once I got it on there, it wasn't upside down. It doesn't matter which side you put it on, it would have worked either way. But it would matter when it was time to zip up your purse if the zipper pull is down inside the handbag instead of on the top. Anyway, I finally got that and zipped it up. And I'm going to zigzag across it again so that it doesn't accidentally slip off. Now, this time I'm done with the zipper. Okay, now I'm going to put this super glue on that little decorative piece that goes on the end. It's decorative, but it also gives you a place to grab when you're zipping it back and forth. And it was hard to sew these last few things because the weight of the whole purse had to be manipulated while I was sewing on this small thing here. And then for the straps that goes across, same thing, it's kind of small. And to get the whole weight of the purse manipulated around was really one of the hardest things to do, to have the seams look as good as I had hoped for. Don't look close if you ever see me out with this purse. Alright, last thing, put the strap on. I edited it. You gotta love the magic of editing because I did this twice. Why? Because I put it on the wrong way first, so that when you adjusted it, that was on the wrong side. It didn't want to lay down right. So I glued this here, and then I took it off and I re-glued it. But then I glued the other side. You can see that. The super glue worked great. I like the super glue gel because when I squeeze it and hold it for a 5 count, my fingers aren't glued to it. It doesn't run as easy as the other, so I always get the gel. Anyway, a little sewing on each end there to hold the strap because the super glue wasn't going to be enough to hold it long term. And then the other side, a little sewing. This one was hard to get up under the presser foot because of the buckle was so close to it. So I had to fight with that for a minute. But I finally got it up there. It looks like it's like slow motion or time-lapse photography or something crazy because I sped this up so you don't have to watch it slow motion. Trim off the extras and there it is. Now it almost looks the same, except it is not so many pockets. Thanks for watching. I know that's going to come in handy next time you have a purse with too many pockets and you want to alter it. Anyway, remember, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all to the glory of God. See you next time.